Welcome, one and all. Let's get started with our webinar or live stream or whatever you want to call it. So, beyond Jira automation, scaling cross project collaboration in Jira. I hope you're in the right room. So, formal introductions. My name is Omar Suhail. I am the product marketing manager at K15T, in particular for Backbone WorkSync. That is the product that we will be featuring in this webinar. And I've been here for 3.5 years or so. But just the emails that you get before and after the webinar, all of those pesky shit. I'm the person you should be blaming. With me are the experts, Lizette and Stefan. Lizette, you want to say a couple of words about yourself?
Yep, for sure. So I'm Lisette de Bruin. I'm the product manager of Backbone WorkSync here at K15T for over 6 years now. I'm excited to share some information with you today.
Perfect. And Stefan?
Yeah, my name is Stefan Gröll. I'm working as a technical consultant for celix solutions for also 6 years now. I've seen a lot of automation. I've written a lot of code. So I hope I can teach some stuff to new people and experienced people.
Nice. Yeah, we'll put your expertise to test tonight. Don't worry about it. Then just a bit of housekeeping. So you can use the chat for questions because we'll have a Q&A session at the end. And the session will be recorded, as you would have heard when joining the Zoom meeting. And you'll get your the recording in the email soon after the webinar, so you can share with your colleagues or binge watch it if that's your thing. So just a quick go through the agenda. First up, we'll go through Jira Automation and setting it up for projects within the same instance, so cross-project syncing of or creation of work items. Then followed by similar setup, but if you have to move out of the instance, if it's like with another organization or with vendors or customers, then what should you do there? So that will be the next one. Then Stefan will guide us through some of the do's and don'ts of Jira Automation and what works and what doesn't. And finally, when if and when we have hit the roadblock with Jira Automation, then what should we do? And that's where Lizette's expertise will come in, and we'll walk you through some ways to scale your Jira setup using an app. A little bit introduction about K15T, where Lizette and I are both working from. We were founded in 2009, and this year we're turning 16. And what do? We believe Atlassian products are really cool when it comes to working within teams and managing information and knowledge. But how do you get that information and knowledge outside of your Jira or your Confluence? That's where we come in. So our goal is essentially what it shows on the screen, knowledge everywhere it is needed. And that's why we are here tonight, because we're living those words. That's our app portfolio. The biggest chunk of it is Confluence apps. We call them scroll apps that enable customers to manage and share and publish their knowledge outside of Confluence. And then obviously the one that we feature tonight is Backbone WorkSync, which we'll go in deeper into. Then celix Solutions, that's our partner for this webinar. Stefan, you want to say a couple of words?
Yeah, so celix was founded in 1997, so over 25 years now. We are a certified Atlassian partner since 2006, so early beginning of the Atlassian platform. We have many ATX listed companies we support, and since May 2025, we are part of the Combinado group now, so we are getting bigger and bigger and providing better and better solutions.
Perfect.
So yeah, our service range from migrations, especially cloud migrations, to custom development and deployment. So whatever you need, celix is there for you.
Nice. Cool. And we'll test your expertise tonight with this automation webinar. But first, just so we know the problems that you're facing, why are you here in this webinar? besides the cool marketing and everything. What problems are you facing when you're collaborating across Jira instances? So is it like you want to reduce the cost, or you want to reduce the mismanagement between or miscommunication between teams? Is it a slow pace of work? Poor collaboration? Is it complicated current solutions that you are facing, or is it something else? I think Lizette has run a poll as well, so you can, yeah, you can respond to it as well. We'll just give it maybe 20 more seconds or so before we show the results. I like the meme there as well because I picked it, so that's why I like it. But this is usually me when I'm trying to set up Jira Automation. So yeah. Cool. Then I think we have plenty. We can share the results with it. All right. So we have 5 out of 9. So 56% miscommunication between teams, and about 33% slow pace of work. And some of you are also facing with pool team collaboration, and there are complicated current solutions, which I'm curious about what they are actually, which we'll have a discussion about in the later in the session. But let's move on to the actual meat of it. So Stefan, as I promised, we will now ask you about your expertise in this. First use case I throw your way. We want to collaborate between 2 Jira projects that is probably within the same organization, but this team wants to be able to clone Jira work items from one instance, maybe it's a JSM instance, to the other instance or other project within the same instance. And these are like our requirements, so it can be interdepartmental, interorganizational, and you just need to clone the work items in one direction. And obviously, you have to ensure the security and privacy of sensitive data. So walk us through how someone would set up this Jira automation. And I'll stop sharing my screen so you can share yours.
So perfect. I will do that, of course. So Jira requirements are easy to handle for a simple automation. So to clone issues between 2 projects, you first need to create automation rule, of course. So you open the automation menu, create automation in your source project where you want to have it originated from. Then just for this example, we say we want to clone it when the work item is created. So we use the specific trigger. For the work item created trigger, you can have multiple conditions like JKL labels. For example, if you only want some specific issues to be cloned into other projects, so you can choose which issues are cloned and not share the whole project with the development team, for example, if you're a support team. For the clone action, so we have a trigger already, then we need an action, of course. So we choose clone work item, then we choose the target project. In our example, it's just project B to keep it simple. And then you have to choose some work item data, for example, like the summary, the issue type, or the description to give the other project and the work item the necessary information. Of course, you can add multiple fields, and all custom fields are possible in this action. After you created the work item, you probably want to link it. Like if you create an item, you want to know where did it originate from. So especially when cloning those issues, it's probably necessary to tell this issue, hey, I was created from this clone. issue, and so you have this connection between those issues and don't get confused where the issues come from. Just give the automation then a name, sorry, and turn on the rule, and then it's ready to be tested. So to show you what happened, we create an issue, of course, in our source project. We just name it automation cloning, for example, just to have some text in there, give it a description, and then give it a label, and it will be created. So as you can see, you can check then if the automation has run. Perfect, it did. So you can go to the other project and look it up if there is the automating cloning test. And perfect, we have it. The description cloning is cool is also there. So for create issue clone, that's the perfect easy solution.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as I understood, Stefan, this is just a one-time clone, right? So essentially just clones or copies the work issue from one item, or work item from one project to another, and won't sync it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just in the creation, after the creation, the data is copied to the other. If you make some updates to one or the other issue, there won't be any syncs, and those issues will go different ways, and data will not be synced. Yeah.
Okay. Then maybe we move to the next.
Yeah. So,
yeah, then I think this was a little bit too easy for you. You've been working for this for 6 years, so let's make it a little bit more tough. I want to now be able to communicate two-way. So it should not be one way. And then probably let's spice it up even more. Maybe collaborate with external teams, maybe across different vendors or organizations. And so you're cloning the work item and then keeping them in sync. And then you're also ensuring the privacy and sensitivity of data. Let's see how you do that then.
Okay, so you're giving me some more stuff, so
Absolutely,
it's harder. Yeah, perfect. So we have another setup. So as you said, we have two organizations. We want to have sync in both ways. So two different Jira instances. This will be a bit trickier, but we can do that too. That's no problem. So let's walk us through. We'll walk you through how to do that. So we need to create an automation, of course, again. For that, we will use the same trigger as before. So when an issue is created, of course, but to have the other instance get this information, we need webhooks because it's not the same instance anymore. So we are quite limited. We need webhooks, which are very useful, which generates a link for you. This link can be used later. You will see that if this automation is triggered via that webhook, I hope everybody knows what a webhook is. You add the action create work item, then choose all the data from the webhook and just create that issue in that project. So that's the first automation. As you can see, it's the receive work item. Just call it that way. It's just easy, but you will see later that's not perfect. But for that, so it's easy to understand. So in the source instance, we then need the create work item automation, of course. So you gotta send it to the destination instance. So again, the create work item trigger, then you can add the JQL filter, of course, if you need it. Let's just make a quick JQL filter for the label. So again, not every issue is synced to another instance, especially important if you just want some data, and if it's another company, for example, and just want to sync some data to the external, you need that filter. And then we need the webhook again, but this time not the incoming, but the send web request. It's to say you can use from the another instance. There you get the webhook URL. Just use this URL, enter it to the request URL, and then for simplicity, we have a post. We have easy issue data body, so it's sent like Jira would send it, just for simplicity. And to have it all secure, we have the X authorization header, which X automation webhook token, sorry. And this value you can just copy from the incoming record rule, copy it into the send web request, and all is secure between those instances. Save it, and then you can have the first. It's just the first way between the instances. So of course you gotta create this in both ways if you want to have it in both ways working, like from the destination to the other source. Let's see it in action. So we are in instance 1 and have our create mask. We're gonna create the issue. We want to sync to the other instance. Therefore, if you remember, we have the condition with the label, just set a description and then choose the label which will be necessary, else it won't get sent to the other instance. So now let's create it and hope that it works. I'm pretty confident, but just let's see if it did work. So switch to the other instance. So first we created the issue, check if the automation has run again. Quite helpful. If there's an error already, you will know it won't be created in the another instance. And then in another instance, we see perfect, the issue was created. There you can also see the receive worker item automation has run. But for that, linking, for example, is not as easy as for the for issues in the same instance. So it's harder to have it more obvious where the issue came from. So we of course sorry. Yeah, to have it in sync, as you mentioned, Uma, you wanted to have it always be in sync when something is written or stuff like that. We have the same kind of automation, just with a small change. We want to have the trigger work item updated, not work item created. So every time someone's changes the description, for example, it's updated and we send a web request to the source instance, destination instance, and there you have the same kind incoming webhook, and then you change those fields again and have it in sync for that. So I hope, Uma, it was hard to understand, but still you understood it.
No, man, that's why you guys are best in the business. You passed my test, but I have to be honest. Like all of this triggers and it sounds tough. Triggers and branches and shit. But so essentially, if I counted right, so this would right now just clone and sync from one direction to the other. And if you want to do it to the other, from the other instance to the instance A, for example, then you'll have to create all of these again, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So essentially 8 automations in total for this two-way syncing and cloning.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. That's that's a lot. But yeah, I mean, if somebody needs to do it, then maybe next slide, I guess.
Yeah. So as you said, it's hard. It's hard to manage. So I've managed a lot of automations, and I've learned some do's and don'ts about it, and I would quickly go over them for you to have it in mind, if you want to solve it like I showed you. So let's start with the do's. It's better to start with the good things. And my first thing is naming conventions. As you said, receive work item isn't the best naming example. So if you see the naming of the automation, you probably won't know what's really happening. So it's best to have some convention in the company or at least in the project to how you name automation. So just from the name, you can see what is happening with inside this automation. I like the when then. So when status is changed, then change priority to high, for example. But this some personal preference. You can have it in your team any other way, but some kind of convention so everybody's in the same boat. So that's helping a lot. For the triggers, as you have seen before, we had the work item updated trigger, which can be executed many, many times. So we want to limit those triggers. We don't want to run thousands of automations every hour, every day, whatever. So first, think about the use case when the automation should really run. So just if the status is changed, don't use the work item updated. Just use field value change. There are many good triggers in Jira Automation already. You can have it very specific, use it for very specific use cases. Another one is the notifications. So everybody knows about notifications from Jira, but those are quite constrained. But there's some, but even better with automations, you have many integrations with different systems. So as you can see there, the popular ones like Microsoft Teams, probably at least 50% of the companies are using. The other 50% use Slack messages. And if you're a company which uses a completely different, which is not supported, you can just use web requests as we used for the syncing. You can use it for the communication to other systems. So it's super cool to just integrate Jira in your work environment and have it talk to different solutions and systems. Yeah, as we already saw, the communication with webhooks is pretty helpful. It can solve many problems, even if there are many automations after that, like 8 4 hour syncing and staying up to date. But still, it's just possible to have it out of the box, and you can support custom integrations and all of that. So another thing very good about automation is those time-based events. For example, you can have automation run every day at 8 a.m. Everybody who worked with Jira knows it's hard to say every day at 8 a.m. do something, Jira. Like it reacts and is not that proactive. So with automations, you can add this proactiveness and have these events happen on a timed manner. And a last thing for the best practices is the owner and the actor. It's very important to have notifications about failing rules. So you can choose when to get notifications when rules are failing. Like the default is when a rule starts failing, just get one email. It's mostly enough, but some automations are that important that you want to have a notification for error that's happening, so you know the importance of the issue. And another option would be no notifications at all, which I would never recommend, because if an automation is existing and it fails, there's something you gotta do about it. And important, the owner is the one who's receiving the emails, and the actor, it's the one who executes the automation, which is very important if you think about permissions. So keep that in mind. Many people forget about those simple but important configurations. So those are just my best practices. Let's jump to the potential pitfalls. They are quite similar to the don'ts, but in a negative way. So too many executions. I already said it. The trigger work item updated is the I think the most misused trigger I've seen in many instances. So this rule runs often and often, and we will see at the end with the limits. It's quite important to have it constrained. Then again with the limits, time limits are important. If you have loops inside executions, So with loops, I mean, if one rule triggers another rule, like we had for the syncing, for example, you got to be careful that you don't, if you update another issue and this issue triggers an automation, cause it got updated and send it back to the other instance, and this triggers again the automation, you have this loop of automations jumping back and forth, and then you get a lot of executions, which will lead to limit errors, and we don't want that. About branching, we had simple automations before, but your automations will get complexer and hard to manage. So try to keep branches small and don't use too many branches. So if you have a workflow with 10 statuses, don't make an if for every status, because first of all, you lose the overview of this automation. And second, if you add another status, you most likely forget that edge case to cover in that automation, and then your automation won't run for that status. And it's just don't use too much branching in automations. Lookup actions. So you gotta, in some cases, you want to look up specific issues. For example, in all issues which are done, and then add a comment to it. And be careful with that, because first of all, the lookups have a limit of 100 issues, I think. And then second of all, it leads to long running times in automations, and long running times leads to limit errors, and that leads to failing automations. So as I said, workflows before with 10 statuses, 10 statuses is small, but many people also use automation to automate the complex workflows. So if you have 30, 40 statuses in your workflow, you first got to think about the workflow if it's really necessary to have that many statuses in your workflow, and not trigger an automated workflow with automation. So don't have the automation do the workflow for you. Just think about, is it really necessary to have resolve closed and finally done, for example, a status. Exactly. So, and as a last thing, many people use automations to instead of built-in features of Jira. So as I talked about notifications beforehand, that's really cool, notifications, as I said, but you don't need to use automation for every notification, for example. You don't need a notification for create work items. There's a notification scheme in Jira, and you can use that, and don't use automation executions for that. So those are my pitfalls for automation, which I've seen a lot of times and I don't recommend doing. And as I talked about limits a lot, there are also those limits in the Jira Cloud, which depend on your plan. So as you can see, no, but most of you won't use the free tier, so I'm gonna skip it, but many gonna use the standard. And as you can see, for Jira software projects, for example, there's a hard limit of 1,700 executions. And if you think about the pitfalls again, many executions, you can easily run into 1,000 executions if you have syncing for updated fields, for example. And this can have a bad implication of your Jira use. For premium, it's better because you get 1,000 per paying user. So there it's quite easier to handle, but also for all tiers, it's just 60 minutes of execution time per 12 hours. So if you remember again, the lookup and the loops, if you have long running automations, you can easily run into those 60 minutes per 12 hours, because 1 minute per automation can happen easily, and 60. And if this triggers on create work item and you have more than 60 work items, then it's gonna break again. And so keep that in mind. And yeah, so those are my pitfalls and do's. I hope you remember the do's, also the pitfalls, but just do the do's.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Stefan. So essentially what I gathered from this, yeah, it makes it a little bit easier for us. Your best practices for sure. But for two-way cross-instance syncing, it's a little bit still very complex, to be honest. And that limit rule thing, that blows, man. It gets I think it
Yeah.
gets very complicated for Jira admins. And I also heard that Jira Automation doesn't allow attachment and comment syncing if we work items. Is
Exactly,
that
yeah.
correct? Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Attachments are a big problem with automations. Yeah.
Yeah, then yeah, I wouldn't say this is perfect, but yeah, we'll stick to that for now. And then before we move on to what we should do to circumvent these problems, let's have a quick poll so we can see if everybody's still awake or not. And also, I want to know about this. Like, what are you currently using if you're or planning to use a solution that to collaborate across different instances or projects? I've seen people, believe it or not, use Jira like email issues. So I don't know, no judgments, but still, come on. But obviously manual copy pasting, sometimes a lot of people do that, so that's something that could also happen. If you're already using Jira automations, that's pretty cool, and hopefully you got some good insights out of it from Stefan's presentation. If you're using a custom-made connector, it's seen some people do it, not that often though. And some people also add partners so they can already have access to it. It poses some security risk in my opinion, but still it happens if it works for you. And if you're already using a Jira Sync app, then that's pretty cool as well. You're already ahead of the curve, but hopefully you learn more in the next part of the presentation. I'll end the poll. I think you got enough responses, so I'll share the results and see where people are at. All right, so 30 30 30, it's a good split. Some people are using Sync app already, some people are adding partners to the Jira instances, and some are already using Jira automation, so that's nice. Maybe you're looking to improve now the way you work. And some people are still manually copying pasting, so anything you do beyond that, I think it's an improvement. But we'll stop sharing this now and let's move on to Lizette. Lizette, so we have seen the roadblocks here. With automation, it's hard to set up, it's hard to manage if it's a lot, and then it can get limited in scope as well. What should we do then when this happens?
Funny that you ask me, huh? Yeah, so we'll dive in a little bit into what if it's not enough for you to use automations, it gets too complex, you need to set up too many rules and hit those limits, and then a syncing app might be useful for you, which is easier to set up. It's built exactly for that use case. There's of course dedicated support and documentation, and it covers a variety of use cases. So yeah, I'll show that to you with showing Backbone WorkSync, which is one of the apps and the one that we built at K15T. And basically, as the name suggests, it's specifically built for the use case we talked about so far, so about syncing issues, and basically enables team to sync the Jira work items and make the collaboration between the teams easier. And this can be done in Jira Software, Jira Service Management, and also across cloud and data center instances. So to not make it too dry, I'll cover it with an example of one of our customers who use it and why they use it. And this customer is Arvato Systems, which is a digital solution consultancy who help their customers transition to cloud and manage their IT operations. So let's have a look at their situation. So they were already using Jira on Cloud and then added Jira Service Management or JSM to the mix a few years ago, basically to streamline their customer services, which freed up resources and budget. So that worked out great. But then they faced the next problem. They had a lot of internal Jira and JSM projects, and the next challenge was to make sure that the collaboration still went smoothly between the customer support and the development teams. So they basically wanted to find a better way to collaborate across departments working on different Jira projects, But they also wanted to avoid using Jira Automation and custom software, as that didn't work well for them and didn't scale with them too well. So let's have a look at their setup. So they had multiple support teams, and they often worked on a single product. And the customer support teams received a feature request and bug reports in their JSM project from internal teams at their company. And usually the support teams themselves, or level 1 support, could resolve these tickets within JSM. But some other tickets needed escalation to like second or third level support from more their development teams working in separate Jira projects. So how did they get that information there? Well, that was basically the challenge, to keep that up to date. And they first tried to do that with manually copying updates across projects by basically having some users jumping across Jira instances and updating it manually. We saw already in the poll that some of you are doing that as well. And maybe you've also realized that this can be quite time consuming, labor intensive, and also can be quite error prone. And besides that, it can also add into the subscription fees, because you need to add those users on both instances, make them JSM agents, so that can add up easily as well. And besides that, they also tried various other solutions, as mentioned before. So they created some Jira automation rules. However, it can work really well in some simple use cases. But for Arvato, it wasn't enough, and it was hard to maintain with the risk of errors and losing data. Yeah, and many of the pitfalls that Stefan mentioned before already. So this is where a backbone came into the picture for them. So they use Backbone to connect their support team, their JSM projects, to the Jira projects, and they triaged only the relevant work items using JQL filters. So they could pick and choose which work types, custom fields, comments, attachments, and workflows to sync. So they remained in complete control over which data would actually get synchronized. And for comment syncing and also for attachments, you can also choose between internal and public comments and attachments. So you have even more control over that. So this means you only sync what you really want to sync. And in the end, Arvato system reported that they have up to 96% savings in time spent on setting up configurations for syncing issues. So no longer the manual updates or Jira automation, just everything in Backbone. And this is done for their 3,400 users across like multiple locations, multiple Jira instances. And they've now been using Backbone for over 6 years. And they've scaled it up to over 60 syncs now already using Backbone. And so it was faster, easier, and cheaper to set up for Arvato than manually updating the tickets or using Jira Automation. It scaled with our use case of syncing multiple tickets across multiple projects. As you could see, there were 60 syncs in the end. And all the different click and go features, also including comments and attachments, ensure that your work items are always up to date and accurate. And this helped them deliver more value to their customer, which in the end, no matter the tool, that's what it's about, of course. So Uma will also drop the link of this customer story in the chat, so you can read it in more detail if you're interested. And then now you might be thinking, well, that looks really fancy and all in the slides, but how does that actually work? So for that, I'm just gonna switch my screen real quick. Let me check if I can just do that here and go to the live demo. All right, so you should be able to see the instance now.
Yep.
Cool, I see some nodding and thumbs up, that's cool. So yeah, let's try to give it a short introduction of how to set up Backbone. What I have here is a service test project, and then on another instance, there is a software project. And you can see it's a green instance and a white instance, so that's the way you can probably differentiate it best. But let's set up a synchronization. So you go to your project, you click on Backbone Work Sync, and you first set up the connection to another instance. So you sync to another cloud instance here, click Next, and then you basically need the base URL of the other instance. So in my case, that is 4, and then you need the project key, which is DSP. So we get the project key in here, and then we click Next. Then you can choose between review and immediate. Review basically means that both partners need to approve any change to the configuration, and immediate means you don't need to do that. Everything goes live immediately. Usually recommend review, but for the purpose of this demo, I'll go with immediate. Can give it some name, description, click next, and then you send a request to your partner. And then if we go to the partner instance, again, go to Backbone WorkSync in here. You can see that there's an incoming request. You view the request and you can accept it. And that's basically then you have a connection between the two instances and the two projects. And from here, you can start configuring whatever you want to sync. So in the configuration, we go to edit configuration. And we basically work from left to right. So we start with the work types, then go into fields, workflows, attachments, comments, etc. So I won't go into too much detail of all of the options, but let's say we want to sync from our service desk to the software project. So let's say a service request should create a bug in the software project. And then we can limit it even further to say that only certain issues with a certain label get synced or in a certain status. I'll leave it empty for now, but just know you can add a jQuery here to do that. Then in the field mappings, you decide, okay, we sync the service request, but which fields do we want to sync from those service requests? So we click on field mapping, simple, and we'll just keep it very simple for now and add description and summary. But this also includes other fields and also custom fields. Then for workflow, we can say we want to map the statuses to each other. So whenever you update the status on one, you also see it on the other side. So I just need to click on the right one. I think I guess I did incident management. You can see there's multiple workflows on one side, but you can still mix and match them basically. So you can say if it's pending, it's in progress on the other side. If it's work in progress, it should also be in progress. Open should be backlog. Cancelled is all done, done, done. And then you can do the other thing for the other side. So if it's in backlog, you say open. And so you can kind of go through the list and select all these different statuses. So I'll just save it like this, but you can update that whenever, and you can also leave things empty if you don't care about all the statuses to be synced. Then for comments, you can choose that you want to synchronize the comments. And as explained before, what you can do is say that internal comments should be synced, public comments shouldn't be synced, or you can also do that the other way around, or all comments could be synced. So you have like multiple options here. And the same way the other way around. So if a comment is made in the software project, you can choose if it needs to be internal, public, or not synced at all. With the addition that you can even say, make it internal, but with a certain phrase, make it public. So you are pretty flexible in how you want to do it here. And then what we usually recommend is the enrich mapping. Also won't go into too much detail, but it adds a little bit more about the actual user who made the comment. Attachment, kind of same, you just click and go, and it works based on the comments. So also you have the differentiation between internal and external attachments. Then there's some more options. You can sync workflows. There are some advanced options. So work logs, advanced options, and you can also sync your versions and releases. Again, won't go into too much detail, but just know that it's there. And then once you're done with setting it up, you can publish the draft and basically start the synchronization. And then what you can do, so let's just create a ticket so that we can see if it works. So if we go to our service desk, then let's say get IT help. Let's give it some text here and send that request. Then if we go to that ticket that is created, so we can see it's a service request, which I think I've set up. Then here on the right bottom, you already see that Backbone WorkSync picked it up. And if we just refresh it one more time, then you can see that it has already been synced to the other project. So let's also open up the synced issue. So you can actually see that. You see that the summary and description is updated. And just to prove that it also syncs back, I think I did the comments as well. Yes, I did. So if we add a comment and maybe just update the description, then you can also see here that also on this side, there's the Backbone Works sync panel, and you see that it's pending. So it's picking up the changes and it's already sending it to the original issue. So if you go back to that one and just don't even need to update it, you can already see that the comment is there by Backbone. It's added as internal because that's what we said. And also this description is updated. Yeah, and that's in a nutshell how you can set up Backbone. And I guess with that, I'll hand it over back to you, Umar.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me share my screen as well. Please share. Okay, so yeah, maybe I'm biased because I work for the same company, but I think it seemed easier because it was UI based and it was all click through and worked quite well as well. Maybe the automation expert here can disagree, but yeah, I'll let that conversation leave that for the end of the webinar. I'll just try to cover this what Lizette just explained and both compare Jira Automation and Work Sync. This was created by our experts, not me, just presenting it. So for cross project sync, I feel that automation does need some maintenance, and for Backbone Work Sync, yeah, it seems to be a little bit easier. Definitely the maintenance part and creation part. And for cross instance sync, my God, that's 8 automation that seemed a bit too much. And for Backbone, it just seemed to be like switching off this unidirectional bidirectional thing. So it seemed pretty handy and not that different at all. Then work item creation, I guess Jira Automation Work and Backbone both are kind of good in letting you pick and choose which type of work items you want to sync. And sync direction, again, Jira Automation is primarily, I think, one way. You have to create, again, the similar and replicate the similar automations. We want to do it 2 ways. With Backbone, it's quite simple. And then either setup, as we just saw, it's a bit technical and time consuming for automation. For Backbone, what it took Lizette, I don't know, 10 minutes or more, and that was like a live demo. So yeah, it's pretty easy, I would say. Permission wise, I think Jira Automation, sometimes that's why it's picked by a lot of people, because they don't want to install a lot of third-party apps, and it's just a huge list of things and compliance issues that they run into. So all of your data basically stays in Jira. That's a good point. But obviously, Backbone being a marketplace app, we do care about your data as well. So it's GDPR compliant, ISO certified, and also I heard that SOC 2 is coming. So yeah, it's good in that aspect as well. Troubleshooting, we didn't run into any troubles because Stefan is so good, but a lot of people do run into a lot of troubles. I've heard that. And so troubleshooting is messy in automation. Depends on if you're enterprise and paying the big bucks, then you get good treatment. Otherwise, yeah, it could be debatable. For Backbone Work Sync, yeah, inbuilt troubleshooting, obviously, and we have dedicated support and really good documentation as well. Cost, Stefan already alluded to it. Yeah, it depends on your tier, and it can add up because you run into these limits for automation rules. Backbone is a paid app, so obviously you have to pick and choose which works for you better. And the scalability, as I've already mentioned, 1,700 rules per month for standard license. For automation, yeah, it is a big blocker. And with Backbone, there's absolutely no limits. Even compared to other apps, sync apps, no limits on number of projects or work items you sync once you have bought the license for both sides. So is this the final recommendation? I'll walk through it and then you guys can maybe chime in. That for automation, like if you want to sync one way in single instance and don't want to spend a lot of money or some money for the paid app, then it makes sense to use automation. But if you want to cover this use case, but also plan to scale a little bit more, or you want two-way cloning or syncing or something more fancier, than maybe a sync app preferably Backbone works better. Is that the final prognosis, or any other thoughts?
I think it's very well said. Very well said.
Thank you. Okay. Then if Lizette's demo and my marketing skills have convinced you enough, then head to k15t.com/backbone, and or maybe just scan the QR code. It's easier, and you can land on the page and learn a little bit more about how the app works and whether it makes sense for you or not. And if you still have some doubts on, I don't know, setting up automation, you want some personalized feedback, personalized advice, or installing automations or even Backbone, then you head to celix.at/services or scan this QR code. They will give you personalized services. With that, before we head into the Q&A session, just one last poll to see how we did, and it's a time for reckoning for us. So from 1 to 5, how much did you learn about collaborating across Jira instances today? From 1 to being not at all, to 5 a lot. I am hoping for 4s and 5s. But yeah, I'll be a little bit sad if you get a lot of 1s and 2s, but it's also fine. Just be honest. Yeah, I did learn a lot about automation. It makes me a little bit less nervy about it, I would say. And okay, I can maybe try it out, but I'm thankful that I have the experts around me, so I don't have to. Anyway, so yeah, it was good to know kind of thing. Not really interested in trying it. Okay. Since we're running out of time, so I'll just quickly end this. Lizette will quickly end this, and then let's share the results. So a lot of people have 5s. We have some 4s and 3s, no 2s and 1s. So happy and thankful that you were honest. Hopefully you were honest or just were kind. With that, we move into our Q&A session. And so please drop your questions into the chat or the Q&A panel. We already have some, so we will start answering them. So Stefan, the first one is for you from Niels. So are there any limits per month for Jira Automation?
Yeah, exactly. So the executions are per month based. Just the one I mentioned with the 60 minutes per 12 hours is obviously per 12 hours, but the rest is per month. Yeah.
Okay. Then another one for Jira Automation, I guess. So when cloning issues with Jira Automation, do existing issues links get rewritten? Yeah, Stefan?
Not too sure about if I understand it correctly, but when cloning, you choose with the clone action what link you gonna create. So you won't delete any existing links or something. So if you have an issue, clone it to another issue, and then have the clone work item action. You choose which link type you use and which issue to link it to. So you won't delete anything, you just add even more links to have a better overview about it.
Okay. I hope that answered your question, Niels. Otherwise, just drop it in the chat if there's something more that you want to ask. I do know there are some usually FAQs about Backbone, so maybe Lizette just tackle a couple of them. So we saw that you were already syncing between JSM and Jira. Is it also possible to sync between data center and cloud instances, or the other way around?
Yep. I also just saw a question coming in just to us panelists exactly about that. So yeah, Backbone supports DC to DC, cloud to cloud, but also DC to cloud, so you can be flexible in that. And the other question from this person was if it supports custom field syncing. So it supports like standard Jira fields, but also the custom fields you create. And the good thing is they don't need to be the exact same on both sides. So if you have different names for your custom fields, or you want to sync a select field to a text field, that's also possible. So you're pretty flexible with that.
Perfect. So another question that we usually run into is, are there any limits for the number of work items or, I don't know, projects that you can sync with Backbone?
In general, not. I mean, we also saw this example of Arvato, who have like 60 syncs set up. And we have customers with hundreds of projects being synced, with also thousands of work items. So yeah, that is all possible and no real limits there.
Perfect. Yeah, maybe one last question is, so we saw that automation works when you have already set the trigger and then it gets triggered. But how often Backbone syncs? Is it like per minute, or can you also adjust that frequency?
So it depends a little bit. If you're on data center, it will kind of query through the updates every 5 seconds by default, but this can be changed. And on cloud, this works a bit different, where it automatically gets the update, so you can't change this frequency.
Okay. All right. I think we are also on time, which is pretty good. We were nervous about not staying within time, so that's good. Let's see if there are any more questions. Let's wait for 20 more seconds. Otherwise, we bid farewell. It's pretty hot, so stay cool and stay inside, and maybe rewatch our recording if there's nothing better to do. Yeah, I guess we can say goodbye. Then thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, our experts. It was really fun, and see you soon, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you for
Thank
hosting.
you.
Bye.
Thanks for the invite. Bye.
Bye-bye.